You want to do corporate hollering in an email? I'll do it like you never saw. She want to do underline? She want to do underline, and she want to do as per previously state? I can do that too. I can do that too. It seems that you are confused. Hello, everybody. How are you doing on this fine Tuesday? That's the day I'm recording this. I am doing quite well. I honestly wish I was doing better, but Danbury is up to their usual tricks. Now, the point of this video is transparency and accountability for government officials who have shown a tendency to lie, not only in the regular course of business, but also on the stand under penalty of perjury.
Nice to see you.
It's good to see you too, Ms. Geigler. I missed you at the city hall earlier.
I know.
But the people who are watching the trial are saying that you perjured yourself.
Did you watch it?
I did. I believe you perjured yourself as well.
Oh, I don't.
You don't believe you perjured yourself?
Have a good day.
Of course, nothing is going to happen to them for doing that in Danbury as far as consequences. So we have to do it. We, the people, have to bring transparency and accountability to these lying public officials. Today's video is going to have to do with some emails that have been exchanged between me and the town clerk in Danbury. Now, I will get into those email exchanges, but first, as a little bit of background context, I want to tell y'all about the Danbury Career Academy. Now, if you've been following my Danbury investigation, then you know that I actually went to the groundbreaking ceremony for the Danbury Career Academy with Sean Reyes earlier this month. So while we were there were a lot of public officials there. Basically, everybody who's in charge of running the town of Danbury was there. And Sean had the occasion to ask them some pretty easy to answer questions. One such question that he asked the current mayor, Dean Esposito, the former mayor, Joe Cavo, who is also the former president of the city council. And he also asked current town clerk and former Republican House Representative Jan Geigler the same question. He asked them essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, do you condone or support the comments made by Officer Ken Utter, caught on body camera footage, now aired to millions of people, that 20 years ago, and Sean was saying this, I would be dead with my teeth missing? Do you condone those statements? Y'all already know what they said.
No, I'm sorry. Got in the bank open on today.
It's a simple question.
Thank you for being here.
Did you have fun?
Do you condemn the statements of one of your police officers saying 20 years ago I'd be dead?
I don't have time to talk about it right
You
now.
can't condemn 20 years ago I'd have been dead with my teeth missing?
You.
You can't condemn that statement. What about a homophobic slur? You post FMG on body camera footage and that body camera footage being tampered with. You support that statement. Why would you think that it's okay for a Danbury Police Department who's sworn to protecting, you're a city council member now, correct? President?
Good day. Thank you.
Do you think that's an appropriate response for a Danbury Police Department officer to say 20 years ago?
Thank you. Have a nice day.
20 years ago, I'd been dead with my teeth missing, sir. You support that statement, yes or no? It's an easy question. I mean, I would think you would say no. Do you support the statement?
The obvious answer for anyone who doesn't have extreme proclivity toward violence would be no. I don't support those statements. That's absolutely preposterous for anyone to have said, Sean, I'm sorry, someone said that about you. That man should have been reprimanded, and he was. I mean, they could have said anything. They could have just said a yes or no. It was a yes or no question. Do you condone the statements? They easily could have said no. None of them said no. Not one of them. These spineless freaks instead said, no comment and have a nice day and I don't recall. So that was weird. Honestly, the Danbury Career Academy wasn't even on my radar. I had no idea it was even a thing that was happening, but they had to have this pat themselves on the back, shoveling piles of dirt, Career Academy opening, groundbreaking, where anyone who has anything to do with running the city of Danbury showed up on the taxpayers' dime with these shiny ass shovels and doing all this weird ritual shit. Mayor Dean Esposito stood up, made some speeches. They all did. It was pomp and circumstance as far as the eye could see, but none of them could just answer the question, do you condone the statements made by Officer Ken Utter? No, they could not answer that question. But while I was there, I said, you know what? This seems to be a pretty important project for the city of Danbury. So I'm going to investigate. I'm going to look into it. And look into it, I did. Now, I've spent the greater part of this whole month looking into and investigating the Danbury Career Academy. I will do a full breakdown of my investigation whenever I have all the pieces of this puzzle. I'll give y'all the brief rundown off the top of my head. Don't quote me on any of this, but I'll try to provide receipts as necessary as I'm saying things. So apparently, Danbury has a school overpopulation problem. They don't have enough seats in their classrooms for all of the children who are of school age to attend school. So Danbury allocates money to opening new schools and to expanding the schools that they already have in order to accommodate the students. Now, this is the running story. Obviously, I don't live in Danbury, and I definitely didn't go to school in Danbury. I don't really know, but that does seem to be a generally agreed upon principle, a generally agreed upon problem. Everyone says that the schools are overcrowded, so I'm going to just assume maybe they are, but maybe they're not. Really, you can't take anything for face value in this town. So, in response to this school overcrowding situation, the Department of Education or the Board of Education in Danbury has proposed to open more schools. One such school is this monumental project called the Danbury Career Academy. Now, it's not open yet. Originally, back in April 2021, this was 2 years ago, the city council met in Danbury. Now, at this time, the mayor was Joe Cavo, the one who's now on the city council and all that. Remember, I told y'all they just hit shuffle on the NPCs. This is one such instance where Joe Cavo, now he's on the city council. Before that, he was mayor. Before that, he was on city council, but he was the president. So at this meeting, let me show y'all the receipts. These are the minutes of the meeting. It's a special city council meeting that was held specifically for this Danbury Career Academy. As you can see in the header of this document, it says $99 million school bond. April 19th, 2021. Mr. DeGilio, that's Vinny DeGilio. Y'all saw him last night. He was the president during that whole John Oliver sewer plant situation. DeGilio called the committee meeting to order at 7:22 p.m. They tell you everyone else who was there. And then also present are these other people. In addition, the following were present. The mayor, Joe Cavo, he was the mayor at the time.
I'm not a cat.
And Danbury Career Academy Steering Committee Chair, Mark Boughton. Now, I thought that was very interesting because Mark Boughton used to be the mayor himself. And the reason that Joe Cavo became mayor at all is because this Mark Boughton character, he was the mayor for like 20 years in Danbury. He was the longest running mayor in Danbury. He left office to go and work under the current governor. The governor got elected and he chose, hand-selected Mark Boughton to come and work for him as the Connecticut State Tax Commissioner. So there's obviously conflicts there. You can't be the state tax commissioner and a mayor of Danbury because obviously there's conflicts. You might favor Danbury, you might favor people in Danbury, for example, stuff like that. And so he left. He left being mayor. Well, the way that the system is set up in Danbury is such that when the sitting mayor has to leave office in the middle of a term like that, the city council president will become the mayor. Well, in this case, the city council president had been Joe Cavo, this guy right here.
I'm not a cat.
So at this meeting in April 2021, 2 years ago, the mayor showed up to the city council meeting, Joe Cavo. But just like the year before, Joe Cavo was on the city council as the president. In addition to him being at this meeting, so was the Danbury Career Academy Steering Committee Chair, Mark Boughton. So I found that to be interesting, but not necessarily any type of smoking gun. I was just kind of thinking like, how can he be the steering committee chair of Danbury Career Academy, but he can't be the mayor? It don't make sense to me, but this is just what is going through my mind as I'm doing the investigation. So number one item on the agenda here looks to be an ordinance appropriating $99 million for what? For the purchase of real property, including common interest community units and development rights for the planning, the design, construction, equipping, and furnishing of a new career academy for grades 6 through 12. And this whole meeting was being held to authorize the issuance of $99 million in bonds of the city to meet the appropriation and the spending and the issuance, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Also, this meeting was to propose and to kind of discuss an ordinance to allow temporary borrowings. So kind of like taking out loans for the purpose of the Danbury Career Academy. Look here, steering committee chair and former mayor Mark Boughton commented on the legislature's decision to reimburse the city 80% of the cost utilizing commercial space for a school in August. Okay, so put another way, if they were to get this $99 million and they were to be able to buy the building and do construction and kind of retrofit it to be a school, then the state, under a state program, would reimburse the city of Danbury 80% of certain costs and expenses that they put into that school. The reason behind that would most likely be because the state government at the state level wants people to have quality schools to go to in Connecticut. It's like really important for the citizenry to be educated or whatever. So there's this program in place that if you're going to buy a commercial space in your city, the state of Connecticut will reimburse you up to 80% of the costs that you put into that school. Okay. So that's what they're talking about here. And we have Mark Boughton, who's literally working with the governor at this point as the state tax commissioner. He's commenting on the legislature's decision to reimburse the city 80% of the costs. Strict timelines and oversight by the state are involved. This will save tens of millions of dollars across the state and provide a unique academic experience. The concept is for 6th through 12th grades. Okay, look at this part. Mr. Boughton added that he has spoken about the program with the governor several times. So you have, presumably, the former mayor of Danbury now working closely with the governor of the state of Connecticut. He's discussing Danbury Career Academy with the governor. He's kind of, in my opinion, for all intents and purposes, in my opinion, he's kind of using his position of power to get extra special treatment for Danbury, where he was the mayor for 20 years. That's just what it looks like to me. But let's keep going because y'all are going to be infuriated by the end of this. He spoke to the governor. He said it. He said he spoke about the program with the governor several times, this 80% reimbursement program. The former mayor and head of the steering committee added that he spoke about the importance of flexibility in programming, workforce development, and opportunities for career exploration. Then we have this guy, Antonio Idarala, discussing the unique opportunity provided by that bill, the reimbursement bill, I think is what it is. Look at this. Bidding requirements are exempted due to the urgency of the issue. Now, if you don't really know what you're looking at, you might skim right past that sentence. Bidding requirements are exempted due to the urgency of the issue. That is ringing alarm bells to me. Bidding requirements are put in place for the purpose of making sure that everything is above the belt, everything is fair, and no corruption is happening. The bidding requirements are put in place for the exact purpose of making sure that there's transparency, accountability, and making sure that nobody is given special treatment to, like, for example, their friend who happens to be a contractor, et cetera, et cetera. So here we have two little red flags as far as I'm concerned. One, why is Mark Boughton, who's now a state tax commissioner, involved in this school still at all? Why is he speaking with the governor about the Danbury Career Academy and the program? Actually, I have three red flags. The third red flag is these bidding requirements are just now exempted. Now, I don't know what this due to the urgency of the issue. Is there a statute that allows you to exempt bidding requirements? I really don't know. But this guy, Antonio Idarola, he's the public works director. He noted the intense September deadline. He thanked the Board of Education chair and their board members for their work. Okay, now as you can see here, Paul Rotello, who we did see on last night's video about the sewer plant, he requested discussion regarding sending this decision to the voters versus the city council making the decision. He commented on the, I can't say this word on YouTube, rate, and the issue of safety, which could be possibly resolved in the next few weeks, and how that could affect deadlines. So if you read between the lines there's a city councilman, Paul Rotello, who's saying, wait, listen, y'all, this is $100 million. Why don't we let the taxpayers whose tax money is going to this vote on this? Like, why are we, the city council, sitting here making this decision on $99 million, right? Do y'all start to see how this is kind of like, getting a little bit in the gray area of like, is this acceptable? The bidding requirements are exempted. The former mayor for 20 years is still somehow involved in this. He's talking to the mayor about the project. There's this legislation that's going to reimburse them for 80% of the project. It's $100 million project at that point. It ended up just spoiler alert, this project is now up to $208 million, but we'll get to that in a moment. I wanted this video to be short, but to be honest, I might as well just lay it all out for y'all. So now we have Paul Rotolo saying, look, why don't we send this to the voters? The VAX rate is going up, and, maybe in the next few weeks, we'll be able to go back out in public and things like that. Remember, this was 2021, so it was in the middle of all of that. And it doesn't really say what was said in response to him. It just says that he brought it up as a concern. Now, the next paragraph, it says that Idearola guy, the $375,000 public works guy, he responded to Robert, that's Robert's iPad from last night, regarding the bid exemption. Independent construction estimators to validate pricing and independent appraisers. So if I'm reading between the lines of these minutes, it seems as though Robert Tabersack, who is the guy from like Robert's iPad, he honestly does speak up in these meetings and he makes good points. He said, apparently, if you read between the lines here, he said he's concerned about the bid exemption. And this $375,000 public works director said, oh, no, don't worry about it because there's going to be independent construction estimators and they're going to validate the pricing. If you're unaware how like these bids work, usually like let's say a city wants to do a big project, like let's say it's build a school. What usually happens under those bidding requirements is there's a window of time that's open for contractors and workers of different specialties to bid. They put in a bid. They say, I think I can build this school for, whatever, X dollars. And then somebody else will bid. I think I can build the school for X minus $5, right? Per square foot, whatever it's going to be. But it's usually a bidding process. The purpose of a bidding process is to ensure not only transparency, accountability, but to ensure that the city, the taxpayers, are not going to overpay for a project. For example, you can probably imagine a universe where the public works director is best friends with a construction company and he really wants to help his friend out. And so he just says, yeah, friend, whatever you want to bid on this project, the taxpayers are going to pay it. So yeah, maybe it would cost somebody else $50,000 to build the school, but if you're going to charge us $100,000, that's totally fine. That's the reason for these bidding requirements, to make sure the taxpayers of a town, a city, a municipality do not overpay for these projects. So Robert brought that issue up. And $375,000 public works director guy said, no, don't worry about it. We got independent validators that are going to come in and make sure that we're not overpaying, and independent appraisers. Okay, so then another woman, Colleen Stanley, she asked about staying within the budget. And remember, this is already a massive, monumental budget item. The whole entire budget for the city of Danbury the next year was like $144 million. This project alone is $99 million, right? And so here's Colleen saying, okay, but look, listen, how we make sure that this building's going to stay in budget? Well, Mr. $375,000 public works director says it's going to stay in budget because 95% of the building is built. Then the lawyer, Pinter, y'all met him last night as well. He clarified that the motion that they submit must be exacting in language and asked that it be amended as shown below. And I don't know what that was shown below. And that's really honestly the reason I'm going through this line by line. The first part of these minutes with y'all is, spoiler alert, there's also a video of this meeting. And you will not be in any way, shape, or form surprised to find out that everything I just read to y'all, including Mark Boughton showing up and making a speech as the former mayor and now Connecticut State Tax Commissioner, nowhere to be found in that video. But you know what is in that video? A clip of the now city council president, but he was formerly just kind of like the majority leader or something, Vinny DiGilio. He says in the video that it's about 9:30 p.m.
The banker in me has to talk a little bit about numbers, even though it's 9:30.
When he says that, I briefly glanced down to the bottom of the screen and I noticed that the video is only 47 minutes long. The video available to the public is only 47 minutes long, for one. For two, all this stuff right here the steering committee chair stuff, Anthony Idarola discussing the bidding requirements, not there. Finance director doing the financial details, not there. Paul Rotolo discussing sending this to the voters, not in the video. Commenting on the VAX rate, not in the video. All of this conversation with Antonio or whatever, Idarola, none of this is in the video. All this stuff where people in the city council are bringing up problems and issues they have. Look, we have problems with the bid exemption. Look, we have problems with safety and security. Look, we have problems with making sure we're going to stay in the budget. None of that's in the video. And then I remember what I saw at the top, that this meeting was called to order at 7:22 p.m. So if the meeting was called to order at 7:22 p.m., and the video that's available to the public is only 47 minutes long, then it's completely impossible that anybody was still in that meeting at 9:30.
The banker in me has to talk a little bit about numbers, even though it's 9:30. It's 9:30.
Do you see what I'm saying? Unless stuff from the video is missing. But I know stuff from the video is missing because Mark Boughton, former mayor of Danbury for 20 years, is nowhere to be found in that video. Discussions of staying in budget, nowhere to be found in that video. All this stuff about tax rates and letting the people vote on it coming from Robert, nowhere to be found in that video. That video should have been at least 2 hours long, available to the public, but it's only 47 minutes long. It started at 7:22 and it was still going on at 9:30. That's over 2 hours. So there's more than an hour of footage from this video that is not available to the public. Well, I requested from the legislative assistant the missing footage. She has not responded to my email. She hasn't even so much as confirmed receipt of that email. So this gets even worse because already it's $100 million project back in April 2021. Already, it seems like they hid video footage from the public. It seems like they are using all these protocols and restrictions for you know what to bypass sending this to the voters. The voters did not get to decide whether or not to spend $100 million on this project. The city council decided it for them. And as an excuse for not allowing the taxpayers, the voters, to decide on this academy and this budget and this particular building and this particular construction crew and this particular contractor and all of that, the reason, the excuse given by Danbury, let me show y'all. Here we go. Joe Cavo, that's the mayor at the time of this meeting, the one who doesn't recall going and talking about Sean Reyes on the radio, he responded to someone's questions regarding the VAX numbers, noting that kids are not yet VAX. The you-know-what has been somewhat unpredictable, and he would like to err on the side of caution with regard to a referendum. That means he wants to err on the side of caution with regard to letting people vote. The town council, Laszlo Pinter, he commented on the executive order in relation to the needs of individual cities. Joe Cavo, the guy who went on the radio to talk about Sean, the current mayor at the time of this meeting, he responded to Robert regarding the potential cost of a referendum. Paul Rotello, the one who earlier said that he thinks the people should vote on it, he said he is in favor of the bond personally, but he thinks it should go before the people for a vote. So now you have to read between the lines here because there's no video evidence of this that's available to the public. It's been hidden from we the people. Joe Cavo, current mayor, former city council president, he said, oh, no. We need to err on the side of caution. We can't let people go and vote for this. We need to decide it for the people. You have the town lawyer commenting on an executive order. Do y'all know who writes executive orders? Governors. Do you know who works side by side with the governor, who's spoken with the governor about the Danbury Career Academy, and who is also the head of the steering committee for the Danbury Career Academy? Mark Boughton. So Mark Boughton, besties with the governor, who wrote the executive order about safe protocols and whatever.
I'm here with the lieutenant governor and our legislative leadership and our commissioners who are all involved in a 19. And we're here to tell you in a unified way that I'm declaring a public health and civil preparedness emergency. It's in anticipation and preparedness. We do it before the hurricane, just in case. And that's what we're doing here as well.
Is now depending and relying upon that executive order to steal the people's right to vote on this $100 million project. And it's $100 million out of like $144 million total annual budget. It's a monumental portion of the budget for one school. And listen, y'all, maybe that's just how much schools cost. I'm not even arguing with the price of this. What I am arguing is that if it's going to cost most of the budget that is provided by the taxpayers in the city of Danbury for a year, then those taxpayers should be the one to decide whether or not it's worth it. Not this small group of nepotism babies that have been running Danbury for 20 years. It's so incestuous that it makes me physically sick. And I was going to say, and they do it all out in the open right in front of us, but they don't. They hid this whole thing from us. There's no video of it. So we just have to completely rely on these meeting minutes that were written up. Again, nobody was allowed to even go to this meeting because everything was closed due to the COVID restrictions. People couldn't even come and view this meeting. Maybe it was live on Zoom, but there's no recording. This should be available to the public. And here you have Joe Cavo working with Mark Boughton, the head of the steering committee, who's working with the governor who put the executive order in place in the first place. We already know for a fact, based on these minutes, that Mark Boughton has spoken with the governor who wrote the executive order about this project specifically. So it just makes me wonder, were those executive orders written in such a way on purpose to allow the city council in Danbury to steal away the people's right to vote on this monumental budget item? It just makes me wonder. And particularly, I'm wondering because Mark Boughton has a personal vested interest in the outcome of this Career Academy vote because he's the head of the steering committee of the Career Academy. Still talking to the governor about the Career Academy, and he's the head of the Career Academy steering committee in Danbury, and he's talking to the governor about the project, and he's working alongside the governor as the state tax commissioner. Hello? And the bidding requirements are exempt. The bidding requirements to make sure that the people aren't overpaying for this project exempted because of urgency. The referendum, the voting on the issue, exempted because of an executive order written by the governor who has spoken personally to the head of the steering committee who works alongside. Do y'all see what I'm saying? Like, I know I probably sound like a broken record, but there also is just so many different connections. I just feel like I need to keep reiterating. So let's see what Pinter has to say. And look, there's people here. Robert, Paul Rotello, they are saying we need to put this forward as a vote for the people. But that didn't happen. Let's read what happened. A motion was made by Councilman Levy and was seconded by Councilwoman Camisa, recommended the city adopt the ordinance for vote by the city council, not vote by the people. No, vote by the city council as a legislative action regarding the Danbury Career Academy, $99 million in bonds for the issuance as presented. This motion was then amended with additional language as follows. The ordinance and documents entitled Ordinance appropriating $99 million for the purchase of real property, including common interest community units, blah, 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 authorizing the issuance of $99 million to the city to meet the appropriation. Such adoption is to be in accordance with procedures and process authorizations in Governor Lamont's Executive Order 7/S.7, as extended together with the findings by this council. So the council found that the use of this executive order, and remember, what is the executive order doing? The executive order is taking away the requirement that the people of Danbury vote on this. It's just putting the whole decision into the city council. This executive, y'all remember, I mean, probably everybody's state had these executive orders where it's like, okay, we have to be able to keep business running, even though, we can't have the people come out of their house to vote, even though the people had already voted in November 2020, which was months and months earlier. No, they used this executive order this emergency executive order as an excuse to steal away the people's right to vote on this monumental budget item that their money was going to be going to. And they said that it was because the city council found that stealing away the people's right to vote here is reasonable and necessary to prevent significant financial loss, necessary for the protection of persons and property within the city, necessary. Stealing people's right to vote on the biggest budget line item in the whole budget by tens of millions of dollars, it's necessary to do that. To act immediately and during the course of a continuing public health and civil preparedness emergency during a time when any in-person or other gatherings and public sessions are not recommended. Together with the completion of appropriate and necessary posting, publication, and related notice, public comment, and related processes required. Now, I don't actually know if they actually did follow all this stuff. The necessary posting, publication, related notice, public comment. I don't know if they did. They might have just said that was exempt. Because look, related processes required. Could one of these related processes required be, for example, the bidding requirements? Those were exempt due to the urgency of the situation. The city council fully recognizes, look at this sentence, y'all. The city council fully recognizes it could have chosen to refer this ordinance for public vote, but it makes the determination instead to use the executive order, that emergency order, intentionally and purposefully to safeguard and protect and secure the public health, safety, and welfare of the Danbury community and its residents. 19 of these voted yes. Only 2 voted no. Paul Rotello and Dwayne Perkins, thank you for you too. There's hundreds of pages and dozens of hours of information and things that basically happened between that and today. But we're not going to go through all of that. I wanted to show y'all how it all really started, because it all really started by stealing away the people's right to say yes to this project. Now, full transparency, one thing that did happen since that meeting was that they did call this for a vote, because they went from a $99 million bond to a $144 million bond to a $164 million bond to a $207.9 million bond. And somewhere along the way, they did actually have to get the voters to vote. Now, the voters did vote in favor.
I just received some really good news. Preliminary numbers show that over 3,000 votes were cast today for our career academy and our bond for enhancements to the school district, with the 2,600 plus in the favor. So it's passed. Whew. Thank you so much. And if I may, I'd like to thank you, Antonio, for all your efforts in helping us put this deal together so fast and so furious.
The effort that went into doing what we did here and going to a different location was a huge change. If you could just imagine what that does for us, and working with the state. And we have a great partnership with the state. They trust us, but most importantly, you guys trusted my department. You gave me some upfront money to keep running, and we're putting it to good use.
Quickly, I'd like to thank the Common Council as well, their city council. It shows you how long I've been around, right? Common Council. But thank you for all your support with regards to this. You stayed with us and supported us throughout. I'd like to also thank Registrar Voters for all their efforts getting this together. Joan and Marianne put this all together and helped us move forward on this very quickly. Also, I'd like to thank, and most of all, the voters. Every voter that voted today, especially the yes voters. I really appreciate that.
But I can't help but wonder what the voters would have voted had they been asked in the very first instance. Because by the time they were asked to vote, it was already $100 million approved. There was nothing they could do about it. And so it's like, well, damn, we already got this $100 million approval, so I guess we got to just vote yes. That's just my speculation. Nobody was at this meeting asking questions. I don't know who built this. If Fryer Architects, I'm going to be looking into them. Rizzo Construction, I'm going to be looking into them. Bidding requirements exempted. Voting requirements on the referendum exempted. The people did not vote for that $99 million. And so by the time it got up to 166, 207, whatever it's going to be, whatever it was going to be, it's like, okay, well, it's already a $100 million project. They've already been putting it all over the paper. We already kind of had our hopes up for the school to be built and all of that. So maybe we'll just vote yes. But it's my very strong opinion that they should have been asked to vote in the very first instance. Now, as I told y'all, the video is missing footage. It don't have all the footage. And in fact, it seems to be missing most of the footage. All that discussion about the bidding requirements and all that stuff is not in there. So I FOIA requested the video footage. Not only have I not received that video footage, I have not even so much as received a confirmation receipt from the legislative assistant of Danbury. Well, what do we have here? Hey, it's me from the future after I recorded what you just watched. So as I was editing this video as of Wednesday, March 1st, I wanted to make sure that I provided y'all with the most up-to-date information available. I wanted to make sure that everything that I said in the video at the time I recorded it was still true, because it's important to me to tell y'all the truth. Wouldn't you know? All of a sudden, now there's 2 videos uploaded for April 19th. Why are there 2 videos for April 19th and not 2 videos for any other date? I don't know. Why was that second video not put up for the public to view until I requested it via FOIA request? These are all questions that I still don't have answers to because I still haven't received a response from the legislative assistant. Nevertheless, I did want to update y'all with the most up-to-date information. Everything else that you are about to hear was recorded prior to Danbury making that video available to the public. And so I was actually right. And you'll see what I mean in just a moment. It's going to be another long video. Another thing that happened between that April meeting we just looked at and today is that the building they were originally going to buy, that building was colloquially known as the Summit Building. The Summit Building was going to be the new Danbury Career Academy. Back in February last year, 1 year ago, the negotiations for purchasing that building fell through.
Ethan joining the show now. He's the mayor of the great city of Danbury.
I know.
Our buddy Dean Esposito. Hey, Dean.
Hey, Dean.
Good morning. Good morning, guys.
So I don't want to bury the lead because it's the most important thing that's gone on recently, and there's a lot of talk about the Career Academy in Danbury. Ethan wrote an article about it. Let's start kind of backwards and talk about you walked out of a meeting or backed out of a summit at the summit. Is this correct?
Right. Walked out is a pretty dramatic term for that whole negotiation, but you're basically right, Lou. We were at the table. The negotiations were going very, very well initially about 2 weeks ago. We had a really good deal on the table, and the next morning it changed totally with requests from the seller. And we went back again. We got a whole nother deal on the table, and it fell apart again with requests from the seller.
He's the mayor of the great city of Danbury.
I know.
Dean Esposito. Hey, Dean.
Hey, Dean.
Let's talk about the summit for a second. The city of Danbury, led by Dean Esposito, we're negotiating with the summit ownership group on turning that property into the Danbury Career Academy, and negotiations did fall apart. There's a lot of people wondering what it is that made that deal fall apart. Did the summit ownership group, did they overplay their hand? Are they overvaluing their situation?
Lou, I would probably say yes to that question.
Basically, I really don't exactly know why they fell through. But one problem that the city council and that the city of Danbury had with that original summit building was that they weren't going to outright own the whole property and the building and the land and stuff like that. In February, the deal fell through with that building. And so the city, already having been approved for at least $100 million or whatever, had to start looking for other real estate. The real estate that they ended up settling on was the one that me and Sean went to just the other day, that 40 Apple Ridge Road location. So the 40 Apple Ridge Road location is where the Danbury Career Academy is going to be now. They've already purchased that property. And like I told y'all, they allegedly only spent $10 on it. They told the news and the taxpayers it was going to be $57.2 million. But that is not what the deed reflects. And this is all building up to the grand crescendo of me asking Jan Geigler a straightforward question about how much the city paid for the property and still have not received an answer, really. I mean, the answer I did receive seemed kind of like dishonest.
This government official arguably committed perjury.
But I'll get to that. There's one more variable. There's one more factor we have to discuss first. And that is this Apple Ridge Road location. Now, the property at Apple Ridge Road, as I mentioned earlier, was owned by a company called Delaware MMP Realty. That company is owned by a man named Melvin Powers and his wife, Mary Powers, they seem to be real rich. I mean, they own a lot of commercial property. Now, the building is formerly like the IBM building or something like that. And then a company called Cartus was using it. So I looked into the real estate records on this property and on some of Melvin's other properties. And it looks to me, I'm not an expert in this area, and I invite and welcome y'all to look into these publicly available real estate records as well. But it looks to me like Melvin might have been having some financial issues with some of these commercial properties at the time because there was foreclosures being filed on some of them. And this is just speculation. This is just me kind of in the middle of an investigation. I haven't really like fully figured out the full thing yet. This is just kind of what I'm thinking. I believe Melvin was having issues because people started working from home and he owned a bunch of commercial buildings. I know what was going on during the PAN pandemic, and what was going on was a lot of businesses were not paying rent on their commercial properties because they were not using them. You can't even go vote. So you definitely damn sure you can't go into your office. So they said, fine, if I can't even use my office, I'm not paying my office rent. I know that for sure that did happen. I don't know if it for sure happened on this particular building or if it happened specifically in Mel Powers' buildings, his many commercial properties that he owned, but I would venture to wager that that is something that contributed to foreclosures being filed on some of his property. And so to me, it seems like Mel had a very strong incentive to sell this property, to get rid of it so that he wasn't foreclosed upon. So Melvin Powers, aka Mel Powers, actually didn't just own that 40 Apple Ridge Road location where the current Danbury Career Academy is going to be built. He didn't just own that. He also owned the two adjacent properties next to that property where the Career Academy is. Now, it was different companies that he owned that owned those properties, but he owned them. So just a couple months, maybe 1 month before he entered into the purchase and sale agreement of the property with the city of Danbury, he donated property. Melvin Powers donated for $0 to the city of Danbury those two adjacent properties. Donated them. And the donation of those two properties for $0 to the city of Danbury was contingent upon the city purchasing the main property. The main property that they told the news was going to be $57.2 million. Of course, I start looking into public records. The deed says they only paid $10 for it. So I'm just confused at this point in my investigation. Why did they report that the city spent $57.2 million on the building? Why did they give the $57.2 million figure in the city council meeting? But they didn't put 50. Why? So some of y'all already know about this deed because I made a YouTube short about it. And I said, this says that they paid $10 for it. This says that they paid $10 for the property in the building. Well, some of y'all were like, every single deed says $1 and $10 on it. That's not true. You're wrong. You are incorrect. You are mistaken. Maybe every single deed that you've ever laid your eyes on says $10 or $1 on it in the consideration part, but that is unequivocally untrue. Before I went to law school, so this is definitely not legal advice, it was before I went to law school, I worked as a legal assistant in a real estate law firm. One of my primary jobs and responsibilities was writing deeds. That was one thing I did, like literally weekly. I was working on writing deeds, drafting them from scratch. The number that's supposed to go in the consideration line right here is supposed to be the purchase price. It's supposed to be how much it costs. It's supposed to be how much you're paying for it. In consideration of 1.5 million, in consideration of 200,000, it's supposed to be the purchase price. Now, yes, some people, private citizens, when they're buying their homes, when they're buying a private practice or something like that, they'll put $1, they'll put $10 in consideration. But this is not a private citizen buying a house. This is a government using public funds to purchase a property that is supposed to be used by the public, a public school. Why do they put $10 on here? So it's just, I just have questions. You know who signed this deed and said they received it for recording? Janice Geigler. See that? That's Jan Geigler's signature. So at this point, I have questions, right? Is it $57.2 million? Is it $10? Is there maybe something else going on? Maybe some type of other incentive for Melvin Powers to be donating these two properties as a deal sweetener for the purchase of his 40 Apple Ridge Road location? I don't know. I really don't know. Did the city perhaps just pick up the mortgage on the building that Mel already had So just so y'all are aware, I did go to the assessor's office just to see how much the building and the property was worth. It's very interesting because the appraised value of the building is $34 million. Now, I printed this out on February 9th. So earlier this month, the appraised value was $34 million and the assessed value was $24 million. So this raises, of course, more questions to me. There is a owner history and sales section that does not show. This is the assessor's office is like the tax collector. The tax collector does not show that the city of Danbury owns this building. It shows that Delaware MMP still owns it, right? So it's possible that they just haven't updated. Maybe they have to update in the next quarter, something like that. But it does not show that the city of Danbury owns this building. But there is a deed to the city of Danbury in consideration of $10. So the city said that the purchase price for the building in that letter of intent was supposed to be $57.2 million. They also said to the News Times that it was supposed to be $57.2 million. But the tax assessor says that property is only worth $34 million maximum. That's the appraised value. That means that's what you could sell it for. The assessed value is what you have to pay taxes on. So even if they paid $57.2 million for this property, and of course, there was donations, there's the 2 parcels being donated. Those were supposed to be donated for $0. I'll put the receipts right here. Those were supposed to be donated by the same man that he owned all 3 parcels. And the city of Danbury was going to acquire all 3. He was going to only sell them for money, 1 parcel. But when you look at it, that parcel is worth only $34 million. So why is the city paying $57.2 million for 1 parcel that is seemingly only worth $34 million at the appraised value? So I'm just wondering, this is just something I'm wondering. It's not even a speculation. It's just one of the investigation questions I have in my mind. Did Melvin Powers pretend basically to donate 2 parcels of land, but really the city still paid for them because they overpaid for the parcel of land in the middle? And then I start realizing I don't need to do all this speculating about what they might have paid, what they did, that, and the other. I can just ask Jan Geigler. And so as you can see, I printed this out February 9th, 2023. And February 17th, I finally emailed Jan Geigler. And this is what I asked to Jan, whose signature appears on the deed. So I'm like, you know who would know? You know who would know the answer to this question? Jan Geigler. Let me show y'all what I asked Jan. I said, Jan, please find the enclosed FOIA request. As you can see, I sent it February 17th, 2023 at 2:42 p.m., 11 days ago. This is the FOIA request. Jan, I would like to request the budget for the Danbury Career Academy. In particular, I'm interested in the following information. How much did the city pay for the 40 Apple Ridge property and building? This is what I'm wondering. How much did the city pay? This is the one, look, number 1, only question I asked. How much did the city pay for the property and building? Why am I asking this? Y'all already know. It says $10 on the deed. It says $57.2 million in the media and the city council meetings, and the property is only worth $34 million. Those other 2 parcels, those can't possibly be what the city paid for because Mel Powers apparently donated those other 2 parcels. So it's just a bunch of discrepancies to me. So I just simply asked Jan. It's a very simple question. How much did the city pay for the property in the building? And then I go on to say, look, I'm very nice. There's no FOIA request on the website, but if you provide me with one, I am happy to fill it out instead. Best. And I put my name and I sign off. So 4 days goes by and Jan responds, not to be a broken record, but my one question was, how much did the city pay for the property and the building? That was the question. Look what Jan responds with to the question. The question I asked was, how much did the city pay? This is what she responds. February 21st, 7 days ago, she just sent this. This is what she sent. Let's see. Oh, the same deed I already have. And it says they paid $10 for it. This leads me to believe the city paid $10 for the property, right? I said, how much did the city pay for the property? She did not say anything else. Look, here's the email. She said nothing. Look, your request has been received. And that was at 9:30 in the morning. Later that afternoon, she sends me this deed and nothing else. Nothing else. So more confusion for me because I'm wondering if she's trying to tell me that the city paid $10 for this property. So I email her back because I want clarification. It's still ambiguous to me. There's this $57 million figure floating around. There's $10 consideration on the deed. The property is only apparently worth $34 million. All this other shady that's gone on with the $99 million. The people didn't get to vote for it. Then the first deal fell through. Now they're just miraculously with this other guy who's donating parcels for free. It's weird. It's suspicious. And it's totally ambiguous. I asked you how much the city paid for the property, and she sends a deed and nothing else. No commentary, no explanation, nothing further. So to me, it seems like she might be saying that the city paid $10 for the property, which would create a lot of issues. That would create a lot of problems because they have asked for hundreds of millions of dollars from the taxpayers in the city of Danbury. They even raised property taxes in the city because of this whole thing. And if they actually only paid $10 for a building that they told people was almost $60 million, that's a huge freaking problem. I mean, even maybe it's even criminal if that's what happened. So I send back to Jan the following. The very next day, 7:50 in the morning. Hi, Janice. Thanks for the deed. For clarification, does this deed represent the actual amount the city of Danbury paid for the parcel? Are you representing to me that Danbury paid $10 for the property and building, which are to be used as the Danbury Career Academy? My FOIA request asked specifically for how much the city of Danbury actually paid for the building and property. So I just want to be certain that that is what this deed is supposed to represent. Thanks. So then Janice says, we provided you, I don't know who we is because she's the only one I'm on an email with. We provided you with the record that has been recorded in the town clerk's office. We are like a library recording documents, but do not interpret what we record. Under the Connecticut FOI Act, a department which does not maintain the requested records is not legally required to route an FOI request to other departments or agencies. If you need additional information, you'll need to reach out to the appropriate department by signing on to the Danbury website. So let's just pick this email apart real quick, shall we? We are like a library recording documents, but do not interpret what we record. Okay, then why did you send me that deed that said $10 whenever I asked how much the city paid for the property? If she's not supposed to be answering that question, why did she answer it in the first place? Second of all, she wants to send me the statutory requirement under the Connecticut FOIA Act. I don't have to send your request out to other people. Two problems with that. First of all, I didn't ask your to send anything to anybody. I said, how much did the city pay for the property? That's what I asked. I didn't say, hey, Janice, can you forward my email across the city of Danbury to every conceivable? No, I didn't say that. I said, I'm looking for how damn much the city paid for the property. She said, under the law, I don't have to forward your request. I didn't say to forward anything. That's the first problem. She's acting obtuse. Either she's actually stupid and has no reading comprehension ability, or she's being deliberately obtuse. The second problem with that sentence is that she's trying to rely on legal requirements. I'm not legally obligated to help you, so I'm not, is basically what she's saying. I'm not legally required under the FOIA Act to help you, so I'm not. That's what she's saying. But neither of those two things are things I'm asking for. I'm not asking her to forward shit, and I didn't ask her what the legal requirements were. She is an elected official put in a position for the purpose of providing transparency to the people when they ask. She's flouting her duties under the Connecticut FOIA Act. I'm not legally required. She's not legally required. So at that point, I never did. I never wanted Janice to be the one to reach out to any departments and get this information because I wanted to get the information myself. I wanted the information myself. If Janice didn't have it, she should have told me who had it. If you need additional information, clearly I need additional information, you dense. I clearly need additional information since you didn't answer the one single question I asked. If you need additional, it's just the passive aggressive corporate email language. Listen, I know it well. Talking about if you need additional information, you will need to reach out to the. Okay, fine. At that point, I'm happy to reach out to the appropriate department. So she provides me with this link. I go to the link and this is what I see. This is the link she sent me. Who am I supposed to ask this? Like, it's just the fucking City of Danbury website. How could I possibly know what department to reach out to? Janice Geigler is the one whose signature is on this deed. So it's obvious that she would be the first point of contact. And if she doesn't have the information and she's too fucking lazy to forward the question to another department, she at the very least could just inform me, a member of the public who's looking into possible corruption here. The very least that she could do is to tell me who I can ask the question to. Well, under the Connecticut FOIA Act, I'm not legally required to help you. Fuck you. How about? I'm not legally required not to say fuck you, and so that's what I'm doing. I'm on this website for a few minutes, and I'm like, you know what? This is bullshit. This is absolute bullshit. So I go back to the email, and I say the following. What's the appropriate department, Janice? That's all she had to do. That's all she had to do. I really wasn't asking a lot. I really was not asking a lot. And it's clear as day that Janice Geigler knows exactly who has that information in the city of Danbury. She knows. She knows. I'm not legally required to forward your request. Bitch, nobody asked you to forward a request. I said, what's the appropriate department, Janice? Because I did. I wasn't just trying to be an ass. I clicked on the link she sent me, and it was not. I have a law degree. I graduated from an Ivy League law school, passed the bar on the first try, one of the hardest ones in the country. I worked at a real estate law firm, and even I couldn't figure out what department would have this information. Maybe I'm stupid. I don't know. But I know for 100% fact that Janice knows what department has the information. How much. All I'm trying to do is figure out how much the city paid for the damn property that this career academy is going to be on. It's a very reasonable question. I promise you, many people in the city of Danbury know how much they paid for it. And it is clear and obviously supposed to be available information to the public. And as you can see, it's been very difficult for me to find this information. Very difficult for me to find this information. I said, what's the department? What is the appropriate department, Janice? She never responded. She failed to respond to the email. So yesterday, I sent another email. Hey, Janice, just following up on this inquiry. Please kindly direct me, not direct my email, not forward. No, that's not what the fuck I said. I said direct me to the person who would know how much the city of Danbury paid for the property at Apple Ridge, which is slated to become the Danbury Career Academy. Thank you. Now, this was me having to re-follow up because this bitch refused to answer my email 5 days earlier. 5 days went by. She did not answer my email. So I had to follow up with her. Please just tell me who would know. I will ask them myself. I'm not asking her to ask them. Think of all the time that she's wasted on this when she easily could have just said, look, girl, I don't know. Here's the deed, but this is the person who would know. Go ask the Board of Education. Go ask the mayor's office. Go ask the legislative assembly. She could tell me who to ask, right? Hey, just following up on this inquiry, direct me to the department of the person who would know how much the city paid. Just tell me who would know. This next email is the reason I'm making this video. This buffoon, this public servant whose whole entire job that she was elected to do is to tell the public information when they ask for it, responds like this. As previously stated, we provided you with the record. And look, y'all see this capital W? Y'all see this capital W? We provided you with the record. It's the same exact email. Look, here's the one she sent me, February 22nd. the first non-response she sent. We provided you with the record. We are like a library under the blah, 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 right? See this? See this? She copy pasted the same damn email and then couldn't even have the wherewithal to go onto the W right here and backspace it and make it little. She just put in this fucking passive aggressive, unnecessary bullshit as previously stated. We provided you with the record that has been recorded with the town clerk's office. It's literally NPC glitching. She has one pre-programmed response, and when she has to go in and even add so much as a dependent clause, she can't even backspace the W. We provided you with the record, blah, blah, blah. We are like a library. Okay, here again, look, she didn't even make the U a lowercase. She just left the same in there. Per our counsel. Now she's calling on lawyer. Like that's about to scare me. That's about to do something for me. Per our counsel, under the FOIA Act. Oh look. This bitch, now she wants to underline something, as previously stated. Per our counsel, a department underlines it. This is like corporate for yelling. A department, which in this case is the town clerk, which does not maintain the requested records, is not legally required to route a FOI request to other departments. And the same exact sentence again. If you need additional information, you will need to reach out to the appropriate department by signing on to the same sentence, same link. When you go to that link, I could report a concern, Janice Geigler, but I thought instead of doing that, I was just going to tell y'all about it and y'all can call and report the concerns. How do I? Let's see. Tell me from this page how do I find who knows the answer to this question? Janice Geigler obviously knows who knows the answer. Also, Janice definitely knows how much they paid for the school too, but because she's not legally required to provide an answer to me, she's hiding behind that law and per our counsel. Well, y'all, she caught the wrong one on the right day yesterday. You want to do corporate hollering in an email? I'll do it like you never saw. She want to do underline? She want to do underline and she want to do as per previously state? I can do that too. I can do that too. It seems that you are confused. I am not asking for you to forward anything to any departments, Janice. All this, I'm not legally required to route anything to other departments. I don't give a shit if you're legally required or not. That's not what I'm asking you to do. Oh, you want to do as previously stated? Okay, fine. I can do that too. As previously stated, I am asking you which department has that information so I can reach out to them myself. As town clerk for many years, you are obviously in a much better position to know who would have this information or which department would have it. You want to do underlines, Janice? Everybody can use the underline feature. As previously stated, I am more than happy to reach out to the appropriate person or department once I actually know who it is. That website link she sent me was completely useless. I said, with all due respect, it seems to me like you are intentionally making this information more difficult for me to access than it needs to be, which is the opposite of the job you were elected to perform. As I'm sure you are now aware, I am a lawyer and investigative journalist working on a story that will air to thousands of people, including Danbury residents and voters, the people who paid for this building. Hint, hint. I intend to report to them exactly how difficult or not the process of requesting these records was for me. At this time, based on your actions leading up to right now, the reporting will include my opinion that you have deliberately thwarted my investigation by refusing to provide me with information that you are in possession of, and you have failed to respond to at least one of my emails. And at the time of the recording of this video, now she has failed to respond to 2 of my emails, including the one I'm reading right now. Please respond to this email with any official comment that you want to include in the story in your capacity as Danbury Town Clerk, and I will include it in the reporting. And had she responded to this email, I would have told y'all her side of things. She did not. She's ignored it so far. Also, please provide me with the name, title, and email address of the quote counsel to whom your previous email referred. I now have some questions for him too. Oh, per your counsel? Okay. Well, I wonder how she's going to like it when I request her communications with that counsel about the purchase price of the Danbury Career Academy, because I'm going to be doing that. Please kindly provide the answer to my original question to avoid this unnecessary back and forth and further embarrassment to the city of Danbury. Which person or department has information relating to the purchase price of the Apple Ridge property slated to be used as the Danbury Career Academy? Thanks again for all your help. I will be looking into every publicly available record about her because it's demonstrating to me she has a lot to hide. I promise you, I will get to the bottom of this situation. My inbox is full of residents of Danbury. My inbox is full of people who are singing like birds about what goes on in this town. And I'm going to be telling y'all what they do, maybe until my last day on earth. The more they try to hide shit, the more they deliberately thwart we the people's investigation into the discrepancies involving hundreds of millions of dollar projects that the people didn't even get to vote on in the first instance, the more I'm going to look into it. So I would just advise any Danbury officials who are watching this, because I know y'all watch these videos, the very best thing for you to do is your job. Providing transparency and accountability when asked. Because what's going to happen if you don't do your job is I'm going to find out anyway, and now you've put yourself straight in the middle of my scope of the investigation. And I would also suggest anybody else watching this video to also contact these people and request these documents yourselves. I have to make a mandatory disclaimer. Do not do any threats. Do not say anything hateful. Do not bully. Do not harass. But this is our right. We have the right to request these documents. In particular, the people who live in Danbury have the right to these documents. You deserve to know how much of your money the city of Danbury used on this school that you didn't get to vote on until after it was already passed that first time. You deserve to know why the city reported paying $57 million for a property that only appraises at $34 million. You deserve to know why the city put $10 as the purchase price on the deed. You deserve to know. So why is it that the likes of Janice Geigler and their counsel are not simply providing me with the answer? It's because they're deliberately, intentionally hiding, obfuscating information. They're deliberately hiding it, which makes me wonder the obvious question. Why? Why was that video 47 minutes long when the meeting lasted over 2 hours? Why does the purchase price say $57.2 million, even though the property's worth $34 million? Why? Why is Janice Geigler not simply telling me who knows how much the city paid for it? Why? In my opinion, in my speculation, seems like it's because they have something to hide. And whatever they're hiding, I'm going to find it. There's no hiding from me, baby. This ain't my first rodeo. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation. Love you, mean it. Okay, bye.